This is Coda Radio, episode 263 for June 29th, 2017. Everyone, and welcome to Coda Radio, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show, taking a pragmatic look at the art and business of software development and related technologies. This episode is brought to you by our two fine sponsors, DigitalOcean and Scale Your Code. I'll tell you more about those great sponsors as this here show goes on. My name is Chris, and joining us, wandering somewhere around the East Coast, I imagine, why yes, folks, it's our host, Mr. Michael Dominic. Hello, Mike.
Mr. Fisher, it is a lovely, balmy day in the swamps of Florida, right?
Oh, so you've made it to Florida. It's official.
I am. Well, I'm still. Well, actually, I'm technically not homeless anymore. I signed a lease today.
Okay, wow. Big day for you. Congratulations. Hey. Always on show days. It's always got to be a show day, right?
Oh. Heightens the drama.
Oh my gosh, I swear, everything always happens on show day. Well, Mr. Dominic, I'm glad to hear it. So, you not only are you able to get a place, but you managed to get an internet connection, a microphone, and a laptop.
No. Oh, no, I'm not in the place yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm at a relative's, yeah.
The backup recording. So this is Florida Studio B then.
This is a System 76 Lemur, a code keyboard that I ordered with an Acer monitor that was a lightning deal on Amazon.
Oh, let's talk about it. Let's talk about that code keyboard. What's going on here? Because I saw you tweeting about this.
Well, feast your eyes on this.
Oh, yeah. I hear those rich tones. So is what you go with as far as keys? You know everybody's going to want the details.
Of course, I went with the blue.
Okay.
And, I have to say, I'm usually a DOS keyboard guy, but I was in a little bit of a pinch. The code keyboards are slightly less expensive. So I'm like, you know what, let me try something new. A couple Twitter folks recommended it, and I'm pretty happy with it. It's very plain Jane. It doesn't have some of the frills that the DOS keyboards have, like the knobs for volume and all of that. But on the back, if you flip that over on the underside there, it's got these levers that are marked 1 through 6, and they change what the keyboard does at the hardware level.
What?
So for instance, by flipping one switch under the keyboard, I make the print screen key actually do audio functions, which has been like super helpful.
That is so great. So no futzing with software on the computer, and if you wanted to go back, you just flip the switch back.
It just flipped the switch back.
So they went ahead. Do you think the caps lock key is useless? Maybe that'd be useful as control.
Well, that's what they said. You can change it. Yeah, you can change it to control. You can. There are 6 of them, and different combinations do different things.
If you're sitting down at a Mac, you can need to swap the Alt with the Command key.
That's right.
This is a slick thing. This is the Code Keyboard, codekeyboards.com. Is that where you ordered yours? Or did you get yours on Amazon? I didn't follow.
I went with Amazon because I went for the Prime 1-day shipping.
So the Cherry MX Blue, you'll love the satisfying click of Cherry MX Blue. They're very balanced for typing or for gaming. Excellence. They combine medium actuation force with satisfying tactile click activation on every keystroke. These renowned switches deliver a superior type of experience over cheap rubber dome keyboards.
Yeah. Now, in terms of all the mechanical keyboards I've tried basically every DOS keyboard except for the new weird internet connected one. Obviously the IBM M way back in the day. They're all significantly better than whatever came with your computer, right? So even if you don't, go with this one, I would recommend that you take a look at something. I know someone in the chat's mentioning the Ultimate Hacking Keyboard. Mm-hmm. That's a little fancier, and it's not available yet, is my understanding.
Do you remember what the price range was?
Of this one?
Yeah.
It was like $100. I don't think it was. It was.
So not too bad.
The DOS was like $140. That's why I went with this, because I was thinking, if I don't like it, I'll give it to somebody else, and eventually my stuff will be here.
What is it you hope when you click an order, before you've even seen it, like what is it that you're hoping from out of this keyboard? Is it a type of feeling that when you type that is more satisfactory? Like what is it that you want out of it?
Yeah, it's the type of feeling. It's also that, I didn't feel super efficient. I'm not a big laptop, and we've talked about this a bunch of times, right? I believe in clamshell mode. I don't like to sit 8 hours a day plus on a laptop. So I realized that, like, realistically getting my stuff down here, when I say realized, I was told, was going to take longer than originally estimated because that's how moving companies work.
Yep.
I said, you know what? There's this lightning deal on this 27-inch 1080p Acer monitor, which isn't like, jaw-droppingly nice.
No,
but
27 is such a great size.
It's such a great size. And, I got to be honest, I have that 4K Dell at home, or rather in a storage container right now.
Right.
I'm thinking 4K might be overkill for me just because I'm getting old and 1080p looks just right.
I agree. If you're not, especially if you're not pixel doubling, but then you're making your GPU do extra work. Right. Whereas 2K is a great size, and just about every damn game plays great these days if you have a decent GPU at that resolution. You have plenty of space in the UI, and your GPU doesn't have to do the doubling work.
Well, and I also noticed that a lot of the jittery stuff in GNOME hasn't been happening. I'm not sure if that's I'm just not noticing it now because I got used to it, or if that's the higher res monitor was making.
Well, also if you've recently rebooted, I find it's better for a few days. Little pro tip in GNOME: if you hit Alt F2 and this will, just as a fair warning, could disrupt your workflow. So only do this when you want to try it. But in fact, let's try it right now. I'm on GNOME. And I really hope I don't lose my browser because I got a ton of tabs open, but I shouldn't, because all it's going to do is reload the GNOME shell. If you hit R and then Enter, this could break my video capture, I suppose. Yeah,
I don't think that's a good idea.
But it works. So, of course, I broke my video capture, but I can fix that pretty quickly. So that reloads the GNOME shell and often fixes a lot of the performance issues I'm having too, which is not that disruptive most of the time. It could screw with external monitors and stuff. But but to your point though, just to double down on your point, so you said you know how you have that Dell 4K monitor. I would say this too. I don't know exactly how it works price wise, but I would believe these days you could find a good enough deal on two 27-inch monitors, and it's easier, I would imagine, for most of us to get two 27-inch standard def monitors working off a machine than two 4K monitors.
Oh yeah, I mean this Acer, I don't remember the exact price, but it was dirt cheap compared to like the Dell. I think it was maybe $110.
So as we're doing the show right now, I am. Can you hear that?
Yeah, what is that?
That's my wrist brace. I'm wearing a wrist brace because my carpal tunnel or RSI, whatever you want to call it, is making it to the point now where it's bad every day. Every single day it's bad. And I've tried changing stuff a little bit, but it hasn't made a big difference because I'm doing a lot of editing, and I tell you what, it really screws up my wrist. So
you got to get that 27-inch Dell touchscreen for editing.
I'm always looking at this kind of stuff that I can change up with my input devices to help with RSI. So I've heard some people say that the keyboards that give you better feedback are better for those kinds of things.
Well, I heard the worst are like the laptop keyboards, because I remember I used to have an issue with that, with pain in my hands, because I used to work on those Mac Bluetooth keyboards, which are like absolutely horrible if you have ergonomic issues.
I wonder if the Mac keyboards, the new ones on the laptops that have short travel, are better or worse for RSI. I would like people to tell me, actually. Leave a comment or contact us and let me know.
Yeah, I would love to hear that. I can't imagine that they're not worse. So.
Also, so somebody in the chat, Architects, pointing out ultra wide on our OBS machine that we use to record and live stream this here very production. I'm looking at it right here. Let's see if I can pull it up. Yeah, this is a 29-inch LG display, and it's a 2560 by 1080. So it's a 21 by 9 display. So it's an ultra wide monitor. It's got a super long aspect ratio. It's kind of neat because you can easily fit two full-sized applications on the screen at the same time easily, or you could fit lots of windows. So I feel like a ton of screen real estate, and again, that's not a 4K resolution. Right. Speaking of contact, an email came into the show here, and it's kind of on point. I think it was Shad. Is that how you?
Shad. That's how he put his name.
Yeah. Okay. So I really enjoy the show, and Mike, I hope that the move goes well this week. At least as well as it can with the whole Phantom House thing. He must have caught user error. I remember Mike talking about the subcontract work on a previous episode, but I would be interested on hearing more from him on it. I'm a developer and dedicated to going out on my own as a freelancer. I did side gigs for several months and eventually had enough business where I could go full time. That was just over a year ago, and things have gone about as well as I could have expected. I've been able to just about double my previous income, and for several months last year, my family and I traveled around the country in a travel trailer since I could work from pretty much anywhere. Wow, that's great. As I said, I've been lucky with the clients, and they've been long-term contracts, which if something were to happen, it would be difficult for me to replace them since I'm not only the development branch, I'm also the marketing and other necessary functions as the small business. And that's his way of saying I'm not getting new leads because I'm too busy working. Recently, I've been approached to do some subcontracting for larger agencies, and I've done a couple of small jobs for them. The money's good, and I get to leverage their sales department and internal resources, which I couldn't match on my own. I'm learning to allocate more of my time to subcontracting, but I'm trying to weigh the risks and benefits of each options. Any thoughts on this somewhat of an interesting topic, or maybe it could be something worth discussion? So what do you think, Mike? That's your own dreams of building your own client base and being your own boss, or does it sort of feel like giving in a bit and just becoming an employee again if you just get stuck on that sweet subcontracting sauce?
Right. I think about this a lot, right? So it depends what you're trying to do. If right now you're working alone and you're working as like a 1099 contractor as a developer, and that's just what you want to do, you want to keep improving your skills and maybe every year increase your rate and get better and better accounts, or at least better paying jobs, then working with agencies is totally fine, right? There's no reason you shouldn't do that. Because frankly, you don't have a sales department, you don't have a marketing department, you don't have people doing that. And the agencies are actually providing value to you. If your goal is to create your own dev shop, and this is something I learned the hard way, those agencies will totally screw you because you are not going to be able to show that work. And eventually you're going to get into a position where your shop is now bidding against people who you've basically built up their portfolio for them. And now you're effectively bidding against yourself, right? I've had several cases over the years where someone has used my work that I did for them to bid against me and then turned around and subbed me the job that I just lost, or tried to sub me the job that I just was unable to close, right? The contract I was unable to close. That's pretty tough. So it depends. If you want to build a development shop, then subcontracting is probably going to be financially a necessary evil. I still do it. But you have to understand that it's an evil. And also, you're going to make less money, right? Your shop is generally not going to get its full bill rate on a sub job. So that's another thing to keep in mind. And presumably, you're still paying your employees or contractors yourself to do that work. So there's not a ton of margin there. But if you're, and I have to be honest with you, there is something attractive about being the one-man band. Especially, it sounds like you're getting positive feedback, you're getting referrals. So if you did choose to just stay as kind of the Ronin, right, the wandering samurai here, it sounds like you could be booked, right? You have demand. It's just a question of, do you want to build a company or do you just want to be an independent consultant? Yeah. And neither is bad. I mean, in a lot of ways, which I think this has come through in the show, I have been very bogged down in the business side of the art and business for the last year, that every once in a while I look at them and say, geez, is this even worth it? Because scalability does get super, super hard. And then maybe you start a secret project. I don't know, whatever.
Okay, so a couple things jump out at me. I think first of all, it'd be good if Shad's probably a little honest and say insecurity about being hooked on just a couple of big whale clients is also playing a factor in this dichotomy that he finds himself in. So you have to look at that and assess your risk there, because it sounds like, in a sense, you've been proactively hedging with the subcontracting work. And I would float the idea that the two things are not mutually exclusive. You could be a subcontractor and also maintain your own clients. It's just going to be a constant matter of balance. And I wouldn't subscribe a value to one or the other. I would judge it more based on which work do you feel better about and which makes you feel safer in your current work arrangement. And it sounds like to me, just reading your email, it's probably the subcontracting work. And I would stop looking at it like it's a mutually exclusive deal, like you can only do one or the other, and start looking at it as an opportunity to observe how a larger operation works. Consider how you could apply that to your operation once this client wraps up, because eventually all good clients come to an end. And you can then apply those lessons learned to your business and use that to turn around and maybe more efficiently get new clients, maybe get larger clients, work with your own team, maybe start your own subcontracting business so that way you can take on different types of larger clients. I would actually say consider this a gift right now because it's allowing you to hedge when you're feeling insecure about your long-term clients. And it's also allowing you to silently observe a much larger operation that's going to do things and learn lessons that you're not going to run into for quite a while. So I think it's a pretty good situation.
And I wouldn't, just to add, I wouldn't look at it as being a one-man band is really limiting. I would almost look at it like being a one-man band, your limiting resource is your time. How much do you want to work? So you actually need to have the attitude of being more selective about the projects you take and really only taking things that either financially make sense or if they're not like the best paying gig, you find technically interesting or lead you to pivot into a different space. If you go the opening your own agency /shop route, you're going to quickly find that once you hit a certain scale, you'll be in this trough of misery, basically, where you have to close deals, where you just have to close. You have to close, and you as the owner will eventually, there'll be like a 6-month period where you're effectively a sales guy. So, I'm not sure that that's really what you want to do from your email. So just give it some thought.
Yeah. If you want to send us a question, jupiterbroadcasting.com/contact. Speaking of great values, DigitalOcean.com. Go there, create an account, and use our promo code CODERDigital for a sponsor on the Coder Radio program this week. DigitalOcean.com, a really simple way to spin up a machine on their infrastructure in less than a minute. It's great. They have SSD storage for all of the different rigs you could choose from, so you're always going to have great disk I/O. They have lightning fast networking coming into the hypervisors. The hypervisors run Linux and KVM, so it's a great industry standard virtualization platform. They've built on top of the shoulders of open source giants and created the DigitalOcean platform with its easy to use, simple to understand dashboard. Total noobs or longtime experts can use this thing. They have an API that's straightforward, very simple to implement, lots of open source tools that already take advantage of it. The pricing that's ridiculous. You can run my favorite rig, and this isn't even the cheapest one. This is not even the cheapest one. My favorite rig, 3 cents an hour. That's just so great for doing a little extra scaling during a release day, trying something out and having people publicly bang on it before you pull it back down and fix it. These are just some of the quick uses at 3 cents an hour. You could take our promo code CODERDigital and get quite a bit of mileage out of it. Plus, they have team capabilities, highly available storage that you can attach to your rig via block. Or actually, I should mention this too. They're now introducing object storage. Right? Brilliant. Now you can just build object storage in, and you can run it on DigitalOcean. It's going to be a game changer, and they're announcing early sign up right now where you can get a terabyte free through October 31st. The simplest, cost-effective way to serve and store, backup, and archive virtually an infinite amount of media, web content, images, static files for your web apps. It's just a game changer, and they're launching early access right now. And if you get in, you get that terabyte for until I think October. Just to mess around with it would be pretty cool. DigitalOcean.com, go over there and create an account. And then once you're all set up, apply our promo code CODERDigital. You get the $10 credit, and then you get cooking with gas. $10, it's like try out the $5 rig 2 months for free. DigitalOcean.com, use our promo code CODERDigital. And a big thank you to DigitalOcean for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. So what do you make of this Facebook Messenger with this the whole bot thing? Is the bot itself called Discover? I don't really follow it because it's Facebook Messenger.
No, so yeah, Discover is a feature in the Messenger app now that basically will help users find presumably relevant bots to them.
So it's like a bot find. See, I wish I could make myself use Messenger just because this is one of the more interesting bot spaces.
It is. I mean, I'm pretty not to leak, but I'm pretty been working on a bot most of the day, or part of the day, something like that.
And is this where you would go if you were going to?
Well, certainly to look at what other people are doing.
I mean, yes. So if you want a useful bot, can we talk about this for a second? To make a bot useful, it actually somebody has to put a lot of time into this. Otherwise, these things are just going to be stupid toys that are just going to frustrate people. This has to be done right.
Well, but this is also like apps circa 2009, right?
Yes, very much so. But they have to get somewhere.
More like flashlight apps and kind of garbage.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely see a big opportunity here if you're willing to take pretty substantial amount of risk.
Yeah.
Now, I have lots of concerns about like Facebook in particular, just because this is not their first by any stretch run at the whole bot thing. And it Facebook has a habit, right, of how do you say this, like aggressively leveraging development partners and then sort of eating them alive. I mean, I'm sure Mark Pincus would have a few things to say about it.
Yeah. Okay, I follow you.
Formerly of Zynga.
Yeah.
So I don't know that that's where I would necessarily want to bet the farm, or in my case, the swamp. But it is interesting because they are one of the leaders in the space, right? I mean, they're and just by pure virtue of just the install base of Messenger.
Okay, I can definitely see why Messenger would be attractive too for developers that want to make a buck selling a bot, if these could actually be that useful, because Messenger has built-in payment capabilities. Facebook's a trusted brand amongst a bunch of users for some reason. So it seems like all the pieces are there outside of like other platforms where there's not all those account details already on file, payment system already wired in. That's all an advantage.
A tremendous amount of user data that you could theoretically get a little peek at. So
to be honest with you, though, I can't really see it. I can't see it unless I'm a service and the bot is a means to sell the service or the goods. I don't see the bots themselves as being a revenue source. To me, this seems like something that your Nikes, your Spotifys, your Ubers, your Pizza Huts, your Domino's.
Pizzas.
Yeah. But how does Michael Dominic make a buck with a bot?
So I'm going to bring it back to apps, right? Only the big boys make it in consumer. And yes, there's always the edge cases, the games, the Stanford dorm room stories. But really, where all the middle tier or smaller players tend to make it is on the enterprise side, on the B2B side. And that's certainly not in Facebook Messenger.
Yeah.
So the way I'm looking at Discover is it is a really cool way to see what is possible and what other people are thinking about. And maybe even to do like a demo proof of concept or something like that. But it is not something I'd be interested in, simply because, we've talked about this. I mean, it's the same story as apps. If you're going consumer, you need just a tremendous marketing budget.
Mm-hmm.
And consumers are fickle and they're dirt cheap. So
yeah,
and it's not a space that I'm super excited about.
Okay.
I mean, the consumer side, right? I think that the bots in the business, right, business-facing bots or bots that help companies work more efficiently, I think can be pretty interesting.
Seems to me there could just be a huge business in bots that just bridge business systems together, that are either separate companies' systems or systems that were inside one company, but they were developed by different vendors. So maybe one uses some crazy IBM database and one's using Microsoft SQL or Oracle or something. And you got to massage data, you got to export data, massage it, and then import data. It seems like bots could be great. Things like I guess I'm trying to make it sound like more than jacked up shell scripts and Perl scripts, but I feel like there's room for a type of superhero Perl script that has question and response interactivity where staff members could go to the bot and say, I need you to go do a SQL dump, and I need you to prepare it for HR. And then the bot would kick off a whole series of work that could be, in the past would have been 15 different shell scripts in the background. I don't know but to me, it seems like that's just an obvious business use case. So does that seem likely?
So someone's been reading my Gmail.
It's been a bot. Am I sussing out kind of the thing that you're...
that is certainly something that people are thinking about.
Yeah, as somebody who in the past, set up a lot of systems to move data between a bank mainframe and more modern systems running on Windows servers and Linux servers, it was a constant problem, and there was big software that sat in between those things and often broke.
Well, and there's legacy systems that, I've seen cases just like doing these Docker deployments for people where like the legacy Oracle database just simply can't communicate with the new system.
Right.
So you need like a middleware. There's a lot of opportunity.
Really, and to say nothing about integrating with whatever your corporate workflow might be. Say, God forbid you use something like Trello or Slack or hell, even mailing lists. Like,
right.
It's just this could be a game changer in some sense.
Or for some odd reason, Link.
Yeah. But as far as selling bots to consumers, unless it was something that fundamentally was a game changer. I just couldn't really see it.
All right, but like, what would you want to sell to consumers, right? Other than like a game for 99 cents. See, I feel like it's a little unfair to like take Facebook into a woodshed here because
you're limited. If you could have full access to my iPhone and you could run in the background and you could help me take Telegram messages and translate them into to-do items in my favorite to-do app, and you could move the data and set up checklists and all of that stuff, then all of a sudden, yeah, I'm paying $5, $6, $7, I'm paying $10 for that functionality. But you can't do it because you can't get access to Telegram. You can't get access to the to-do app of my choice. You can't do it. So anything that actually be useful that I'd be willing to pay money for requires total run of the OS. It's got to be built in at the OS level, I figure.
Right. And I would argue that a bot to be successful really needs to almost be like an extension of the team and not just, the Google customer service Python script. And if you've ever bought anything from Google, you've dealt with that script several times.
Yeah, JBot does quite a bit for us here at JB, and that is particularly nice. It does do things that otherwise us humans would have to manually do all the time.
Which really means they wouldn't get done. In many cases.
Yeah, we would often, there's definitely, it's multi-step processes that maybe something would get missed or something. Like maybe the titles page wouldn't get flipped over or something and reset for the next show. And, we might forget to go ping this API and ping that. There's just all kinds of stuff that it does for us that's why when we talk about this, I think you and I are probably less skeptical than the majority of the audience is about this topic. To a degree, because you are toying around with actual like possible business uses for it, and I've been using a bot now for more than 2 years.
Well, yeah, I mean, from a business case, it comes down to a cost benefit, and like there are a ton of rudimentary tasks that every business does that even paying someone $10 an hour to do is actually a lot, right? That's like $20,000 a year, and depending on your state, it might be more because taxes could be high.
I want to jump ahead, and I want to read this. Is it unethical for me to tell my employer I've automated my job? Do you want to? Okay, because this seems like it's super applicable to what we're talking about right now. So this is a question that I think you and I should crack really quick, and I'll just try to bust through this. He says, I currently work on a legacy system for a company. The system is really old, and although I was hired as a programmer, my job is pretty much a glorified data entry. To summarize, I get a bunch of requirements, which is literally just lots of data for each month on spreadsheets, and I have to configure the system to make it work, which is basically just writing a whole bunch of SQL scripts. It's not quite as simple as that because whoever wrote the system originally really wrote it backwards, and in fact, the analysts who create spreadsheets actually spend a fair bit of time verifying my work because the process is so tedious that it's kind of easy to make a mistake. As you can guess, it's pretty much the most boring job ever. However, it's a full-time job with decent pay, and I can work remotely, so I get to stay home with my son. So I've been doing it for about 18 months, and in that time, I've basically figured out all the traps to the point where I've actually written a program, or you could say in this case a bot, let's just say for the sake of conversation. I've written a bot, which for the past 6 months has been just doing the whole thing for me. So it used to take that last guy like a month, now maybe takes 10 minutes to clean the spreadsheet and run it through the bot. Now the problem is, do I tell them? If I tell them, they'll probably just take the program and get rid of me. They'll probably just take the bot and get rid of me. This isn't like a company with tons of IT work. They have a legacy system where they keep all of their customers' data since forever, and they just need someone to maintain it. At the same time, it doesn't feel like I'm doing the right thing. I mean, right now, once I get the specs, I run it through my bot about every week or so. I tell them I've completed some part of it, and I get them and I let them test it. I even have inserted a few bugs here and there to make it look like it's been generated by a human. There might be amendments to the spec and corresponding through email, etc., but overall I spend probably 1 or 2 hours per week on my job, which I'm getting a full-time wage. I really enjoy the free time, but is it unethical to continue? This seems like this exact problem is going to happen. I mean, what he's going through is going to happen to a lot of people.
Yeah. So, okay. So the fact that he's actually injecting synthetic bugs,
that's where it goes off the rails.
I am not an attorney, but I'm pretty sure a prosecutor would say that shows consciousness of guilt. Yeah. Because you're trying to cover it up. Yeah. You do need to tell your employer.
Before then, you could have gone with the I don't sell my time, I sell the results argument.
Yeah, but once you cover it up, right? Well, even then, I think that's a very, very weak argument. It's just sometimes the cover up is worse than the crime. Now, from a practical perspective, maybe you don't tell them you've been doing it for however long you've been doing it, because they might, have a problem.
Yeah.
with
Okay.
that.
So if this guy, he's really in a jam here. So obviously, what he's got to do now is he's got to work his way out in the most ethical way he can going forward. But pat yourself on the back for at least having a bit of guilt about it and now correcting the situation. And I would just say, pitch it in a way like. As actually just tell them the truth and say, it's good news. As this process have gotten simpler over the last 18 months for me, I've been on the side, been spending a little extra time creating a bot to do all of this stuff. And it's actually working out really great. I've been testing it a few times. I think we should try it some more. And be honest with them and say, I'm a little worried about working myself out of a job here, but maybe there's other things that this thing could handle. Maybe there's other workflows this thing could manage.
Try to identify ways that you can provide value.
Here's the thing is, right? Exactly. There may be something else. If he could show them how well this is working, there may be other things for him to work on. And remember, this business is paying this group of analysts to then review the data. So they're paying a lot for stuff they don't need, because it's not just this guy's time, but it's the analysts then that are reviewing the output of the bot, and that is.
But you definitely, as Frecklabs is saying, you definitely need a frequent never. You need to not introduce fictitious bugs. That if again.
Stop now and bring up the conversation. Right? And now there's no bugs. So let's try it. And look, no bugs. That's great.
You're on a.
Yeah, man, that's rough.
Yeah, you're on an ethical tightrope here. Well, not really. Actually, you're not on a tightrope. What you're doing is not right.
So let's remove the introducing bugs part of it just for a second, because I wouldn't have spent a lot of time on it, but I do feel like the overall problem. Where, because as a contractor, this was always the thing I was trying to get to, because the more I could simplify the amount of work I had to do for my clients, the more clients I could take on, the more money I could make. So I was always of the mindset to work myself out of a job, because then I could also hand off the client. And the reality was, the more I did that, the less time it took. And there were times where my people who were paying me at the time, my boss was like, you work faster than anybody else does now for some of these clients, because they were still my clients. They hadn't been handed off yet. And the issue, he says, is that I need you to pad your hours out a bit.
Well,
I said, what? And I said, well, because he said, here's the thing. I'm going to send a new guy in there to replace you, and he's going to double their bill when he goes in there, because he's going to take more time than you. And he said, we are charging for a result. It's literally the words he used. And so,
well, okay. This is not, not to get on a soapbox here, but if you're charging someone X dollars to do a job, right, flat,
right,
$5,000, whatever,
right.
Then if I do it in 15 seconds, I have no guilt about charging you $5,000 because you agreed on a fixed price.
Right, but the problem is they worked on an hourly basis.
And you are really working on an hourly wage, and
yeah. So what we did? It was actually a good compromise. Is we just used that. I helped train the guy. So the guy came and shadowed me, and then we just kind of did a handoff. And it worked out fine, but that was literally the value conversation they're having. Is like, dude, you're working too fast. You're getting the stuff in, you've automated half this stuff that we used to take hours to do, which is good, but now we don't get to charge hours for it. And they did eventually transition to a monthly maintenance fee. And so then it was all about, make that as efficient as possible. So they figured it out as a business, but there was this awkward transition period where they hadn't solved it yet.
Yeah, I feel like this is obvious, but you should not be filling out timesheets for hours you don't work.
Right.
Yeah. That's,
So there is a big news announcement today. Speaking of hoopla, Mike's personal friend over at System 76 is pretty busy on the internet. Because System 76 today announced Pop OS. Pop OS, and it's POP!_OS. Which is kind of a mouthful. So if
going to be a bitch for SEO.
What you could do is you could just POS, just acronym POS.
How about 76 OS, Buckeye, by the way?
That's what I was expecting. Yeah. So they say it's going to be a powerful operating system just for creators. It's not a distro. It's a modern, powerful OS designed for people who use their computer to create, whether it's complicated, professional-grade software and products, 3D models, computer science, or working on the latest invention.
Or Jar Jar bots.
What's your reaction to this? I'm still formulating mine.
So I am formulating. I spent about an hour before the show reading Reddit about this. And first of all, wow.
Sorry. Yeah. That's yeah, man.
Definitely not a great day to be Ryan.
Woo.
It's like there's not a lot of positivity, which I find strange because on the one hand, like I definitely have a concern. You know, I was there for the System 76 Superfan event, where they unveiled all their master plan for that laptop they just released, and that they're going to start building their own machines rather than using resellers. But they're not a big company, so there is an argument in here, and I think it's a bad argument. But I'm just going to try to make the argument that I think the angry trolls on Reddit are trying to make, but can't help themselves. They're not a big company, and doing hardware engineering and software engineering, and they already did some software engineering, like on the kernel level and all that stuff. It certainly is a big effort for them. And it's also unclear to me, like, how much of a new OS this is, because it's still built on Ubuntu.
Yeah.
So is it really like what, back in the day we would have called a spin?
Yes.
Perhaps?
Yeah, it is.
Because that's kind of what it looks like.
Yeah, but I think the reason why they're positioning it as an OS today is because tomorrow they may have a totally different release cadence than Ubuntu. They may have a totally different feature set. They're still going to base it on Ubuntu, but I think the intention here is to differentiate it to a degree so that way you don't expect it to behave like an Ubuntu flavor.
I mean, if they can get me, did they make a bunch of UI changes? It looks a lot like Unity with like GNOME 3 and Unity had a baby, which is fine. Bottom line, when this comes out in October, if installing it on my Lemur over here gives me more battery life because of some, low-level hardware optimization they do, then that is worth the $0 price of admission.
So this is an interesting thing because they're positioning this, and you go to system76.com/pop as a OS, not just for their hardware, but for any creator out there. And that's an interesting proposition because it means that they are also going to, so they're now an OS vendor. That's fascinating. To me,
it is confusing, right? Because they keep calling it its own OS, but it really does. It is a spin.
So my initial thought was, since they announced the pop theme and all of this, I thought, I think something inside Canonical. I think something inside System 76 snapped when Canonical announced the end of Unity 7 and the end of the Unity 8 project. I think there was this pent-up anxiousness for new features for the Ubuntu desktop to move forward. Like, I think there was this beginning feeling like the lack of progress is holding back hardware sales potentially. And when the announcement came that they were ending their investment in Unity, I think the dams broke inside System 76, and they had a come to Jesus moment. And this is them still getting their heads together after this, because this is a huge shift if you think about it. If you look at what Canonical is going to do, we're starting to see with Ubuntu 17.10, is essentially you can draw a straight line from Unity 7 to the GNOME 3 desktop environment on 17.10. Like, they're moving a lot of the same stuff over. And Unity 7, not going away. Turns out still installable, still going to be, you can select either GNOME or Unity after you've installed Unity at the login screen. So it is not a dramatic, the world has ended shift, and it would have been simple for System 76 to just keep on keeping and shipping that. And so some of this stuff they've decided to do, they decided to make these changes before Canonical was clear what they were going to do design-wise and Unity and GNOME-wise. And some of this stuff they've decided to do since Canonical has made it clear. So it hasn't dissuaded them. They're continuing on, and I find that to be a fascinating, risky move for a small business because, like you said, not only are they now taking on manufacturing, which would seem to be a huge new aspect for the business to wrap its head around, but now they're also becoming an OS vendor, and they're talking about potentially different release cadences. They're talking about adding feature sets that most Linux distros don't have. So there's all kinds of speculation right now about where it's going to go. But today, like you say, what we really have is a Ubuntu wallpaper respin. And I don't mean to be so critical, but essentially what we have here is some forkage with a new theme. And it's all right, but today it's nothing remarkable. But they're not even shipping this thing really until October, so we'll see.
Right. Which, I mean, people are pointing out in the chat, they are calling it a distro, so maybe they will have more stuff than they have right now in October.
Where are they calling it a distro specifically? Just because their GitHub page says distro doesn't mean anything, because in all of their literature, they're calling it OS, and on Twitter, it's Carl and Ryan are very carefully calling it an OS and not a distro.
Yeah, it's interesting. The marketing material says Pop OS, and it always refers to it as an operating system.
Yeah,
but the GitHub repo calls it
I did receive under an embargo until this morning. I did receive an email from Ryan, and in that, it's all referred to as an operating system, and that's like the press release and stuff like that. So it seems it is a distro, and it probably started as that. But then, as you think about it, if you're System 76 and you want to take on the MacBook, you don't sell a distro. You sell a whole OS. You sell a whole product.
So, I mean, we've been less than positive, but I got to be honest. Like, if this actually makes sense and works in October, and there's some material advantage, or frankly, it's pre-installed because I'm lazy, it looks fine, right? Like, if they could get some sort of optimization for their hardware.
The theme is a bit bright, so it's a little distracting for me. So but
you can change it, right?
Exactly. Yep.
You go in and change all that shit. That doesn't matter.
That's why it needs to be more than the theme, obviously, because that's one of the first things I'll probably just go to Arc Dark. But I am really interested to see where they go with this, because my initial response is negative. I have to be honest. It seems like biting off more than they can chew. It also seems like other really great distributions like Elementary OS that already have brand and recognition for being high quality, which if you matched that with high quality hardware would be two things that would play really well together and probably would really excite the Linux community. I think that to me seemed like a natural way to go. Also, one of the Elementary OS developers works at System 76. They've had Hackfest at System 76, so it seemed to me like a natural fit. That said, I do kind of understand as a business owner why Carl and the folks at System 76 would want to try to differentiate their products more, and this could be a clear product differentiator. So it really comes down to how well it succeeds, and we have to keep in mind that it is not as hard to respin the GNOME desktop as, say, it used to be in the past. GNOME Shell is highly customizable. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should, I'm still running GNOME 3 because lazy and I don't use alpha software. But let's see what happens. I'm a little more optimistic because don't forget, a lot of people are getting into the Linux professional developer workstation now. So I definitely understand, or I could see an argument for them to say, we now need to tighten the integration between the software and the hardware on our systems to really have that quote unquote Mac-like experience. And it will also enable them to provide presumably much better, much tighter support.
Well, and if they create something unique and they upstream it like they say they're going to, then it would seem like in the end everybody kind of wins anyways. The one thing that sets off a bit of an alarm bell for me is in this entire process, they've actually forked GNOME Shell. So they're not just taking GNOME Shell and retheming it.
Right.
And I think that's so that way they can theme the login manager too, if I'm guessing. I'm not sure why they would have to fork GNOME Shell because there's other ways to brand GNOME Shell. But anyways, they are forking GNOME Shell to do this. And that to me seems like, I don't know. That to me seems like a red flag. That's a flag on the field right there, however you say it in the sports ball. But it's something to watch and see where things go. And I'm gonna think about it. I have a notepad right here. I've been taking notes as you and I talk right here. And Noah and the Beard and I are gonna kick it around on user error this week too, because I know they also have thoughts on it. So I think it's probably gonna be one of our topic du jours on user error. We're kind of running out of time, and I had one thing I had at least one more tooth. Okay, so let's bust through these. I'll take a moment and I'll say thanks to Scale Your Code. Thanks to Scale Your Code for sponsoring Coder Radio, and what a great deal. You guys just go to scaleyourcode.com and sign up to their mailing list, low flow mailing list, and you get access to the interviews, the inside looks, and tutorials. Interviews with great experts that really have experience with this stuff where you can learn from them. A little osmosis right here in action where you can get tips to scale your infrastructure, surround yourself with a good crowd and build a good culture, solve nearly impossible problems. I like this one. This is a pretty good one. Learn how Thomas builds fast WordPress plugins that solve users' problems. Actually, you know what? Fascinated by that as somebody who runs a WordPress website. He talks about some of the challenges working in that ecosystem. He talks about contributing to WordPress core and that whole thing, and his workflow and how he tackles big coding projects and how he found the right business partner. Seems like that could be extremely useful. ScaleYourCode.com. Go there, sign up for the low flow mailing list, and get access to interviews, tutorials, guides, and insights. ScaleYourCode.com. Big thank you to Scale Your Code for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. Coder Radio. Do we need to spend much time on the fact that today, I mean, it does seem like it had a big impact on this show, 10th anniversary of the iPhone today.
Yeah, I'd like to take a minute. I mean, but first, let's take a steaming pile on the Apple App Show.
Oh, you wanna? Yeah, that's a great way to start. Let's do it. It's bad. It's really bad.
So just the people who keep sending me hate mail about this. Chris keeps putting this in the show notes, not me.
Who, me? No, never. I did put this one. You're right, but I don't think I put the last one in here.
No, the last one was me. So, okay, like if you like that show, and if you think, and this is my key argument, if you think it is a realistic view of what being an app entrepreneur is right, you were right and I was wrong.
Yeah, there you go. Have at it.
Because
right? Have at
basically everybody has failed. Like, dramatically.
So there is a really good video in the article we have linked in the show notes, and it's called "Everything Wrong with Apple's Planet of the Apps." It's probably on YouTube as well. And holy shit, if that's not a total takedown of this thing. They imply that Apple Sherlocked ARKit from one of the guys in this contest. I don't know.
Apple had to be working ARKit first.
I agree.
But it certainly makes being an AR platform vendor on iOS a business destined for bankruptcy. I just want to say that. And if you don't know, that was one of the big success cases, right? That like people are talking about. Oh, but did you see? I forgot the name of the company, but basically their deal is they have an AR platform. Their business model, as convinced by the Apple panel of geniuses, was to change to B2B. So license the software for other apps to use your AR platform. Great business until some big platform vendor makes AR easier to use, better, and free. Mm-hmm. That's like the trifecta from hell.
The whole thing, when I saw it, I saw will.i.am or whoever it was that was commandeering somebody's really great idea.
The Fox.
The fitness app. Yeah, adding a talking fox to it.
I have to say, the talking fox warrior, and then they broke the app. Yeah.
So they have it. So the idea of this app was that you have like a little fake virtual pet on your internet phone that is fed and taken care of based on your workout activity that's recorded in Apple Health. I kind of like that idea, actually.
I think it'd be great for kids, actually, right? Your dog or your fox gets fat if you don't. Yes,
exercise. Exactly. Or me.
Yeah. Or Chris just continues.
And then to see a great app idea like that just be destroyed by one of the hosts on the show, that was too much for me.
Well, and the best is check out the video, because the look on the face of the guy who owns
he's like,
app
what?
Company, you can tell he knows it's a bad idea, but what do? You're on TV. Mm-hmm. Fucking will.i.am, who, for whatever you think, the guy is like a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, and they're offering you a ton of money.
Yeah. Yeah. It was I don't know. The reason, I guess, it does feel like and then we've recently had Scott Forstall up on stage, coming across as a total class act, making everything sound rational, and taking a couple of shots here and there. But you look at 10 years ago, and you look at today, where we have Planet of the Apps today. I just don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, but let's look at 10 years ago, because we're having a little fun at Apple's expense because frankly they can afford it. They actually changed how platform vendors deal with developers, and we have tended to focus on the negative because of when the show started. But if we time travel back to like 2006, let's just go on our way back machine. Apple, when they came out with the App Store in late 2008, 2009, was basically the most liberal person you could possibly deal with in terms of proprietary mobile platforms.
Mm-hmm.
You used to have to make deals with carriers to get
and carriers had
your Java ME software on their piece of flip phones, right?
Yep, and carriers would even, in some cases, have to test it on their devices on the network before you could even... It was just basically impossible.
Oh, and by the way, the 70-30 split, no. It was a deal-by-deal basis, and you were lucky if you got like 15%. And that's like 15% was a good deal.
Yeah, there's no question it changed everything. It really did. It's one of the larger technology shifts in my lifetime.
Yeah, and they really did enable a lot of small developers. And unfortunately, as technologies mature, the big boys come in, and that's kind of what makes Planet of the Apps a little bit of a farce, because it's just too damn late. Even good ideas can be demolished by bigger competition, or in some cases, will.i.am. But yeah, I sometimes I feel like we're almost, and here comes the Apple Action Show feedback, but we're almost too negative on Apple, because it's easy to look at the world the way it is now and forget that it used to actually be a lot worse for the small independent developer. And really, Apple had a hand in that. Now they have their hangups, and I wrote that blog post, "The Moors of the King," about how like Apple decided that it was like in a historical app or a Civil War game to show a Confederate flag, that they like started throwing those off the App Store. But like that's nothing compared to what like BlackBerry, aka RIM, used to do, or HP used to do, or Verizon. If you've ever dealt with Verizon in any capacity,
Amen.
You know what I'm talking about.
Amen to that.
Especially like if you worked or did development for a company who was like trying to get their software on Verizon hardware. And it's so hard to make these analogies, because now we think about like Samsung, we think about LG, we think about Apple. The phone makers didn't matter back then. It was Verizon. It was AT&T. So it was a totally different world, and it was a much, much worse world.
Yeah, it was singular, actually. Singular.
Oh, I forgot. Well, I'm even thinking just like for the for the old
hardcore telcos
stuff.
Oh my gosh, Mike! I remember I was at work during the keynote, and I saw that, and I went, "Yeah, that's going to be a thing." I could see it immediately, and
I was wrong. I did not buy it.
Oh, I didn't buy the first one either. No, I could tell it was definitely a first gen product.
Oh no, I didn't buy the concept because I couldn't get past my head. I was saying, why the hell would the carriers? And I was thinking particularly about Verizon.
Yeah. That was really remember, it was a singular exclusive.
Well, and that's the answer, right? Verizon said no, and Singular, in their dying breath, did it.
Yeah. Well, and it was that requirement to not put any shit on there that I think made a big difference. I think it set a bar.
Industry.
Yeah.
Oh, and that we distribute the software, not the carrier, because again, it is such a different world. Before, the carrier used to just distribute the software. Either you had a pre-installed deal, just like if you remember the Spy games or whatever it was on Windows, it was a deal like that, or you had like the Verizon, whatever, in like 3 levels deep in the menu, you could get in and like download your app.
Now fast forward to 2017, and at least in the summer of 2017, one of the things in the Apple ecosystem that people are more excited about than the phone is the tablet again, especially with these new iPad Pros. Ironically, it sounds like now that here we are 10 years later, we're getting quite a good detailed history of the iPhone. It started as a tablet project.
Yep.
And then they were like, well, can we make this a phone? And here we have it. So you are highlighting Workflow, which I've heard good things about.
Well, so Apple bought them, right? They were an independent company. And what they do is you can chain together literally workflows to create a bigger workflow and basically do more complex things with your iOS device by chaining individual actions from individual apps together. So
like take my current location, route that home, figure out the time, and then send a message to my wife at what time I'll be home.
That it's almost like an if this then that.
Yeah. Upload my last photo and my camera roll directly to Dropbox. Don't ask me, just do it.
Right. Maybe Zapier is a better analogy, but yeah.
And so I've never used it, but I've heard this is how a lot of people make tablets their full-time device.
Yeah, if you listen
Sounds
to
like
any of the
black magic to me.
Yeah, the deeper Apple guys, this is the ones who are like trying to live on iPads. This is how they're doing it. I use it some. I find it a little hard to get working with, and I'm pretty sure iOS 11 is just going to fix this, both from a development and a user perspective.
It's free now, though, right?
Well, because Apple bought them and made it free.
Yeah. Which is probably a sign it's eventually going to get killed off.
Or parts of it that Apple likes. Like one thing, all the Google integrations went away when Apple bought them.
Oh, classic. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude.
There was a whole bunch of like, so the story, and this is all like rumor and conjecture, so don't hold me to it. The story that I heard was that because they were a startup, they don't really give a crap, right? They just went ahead and like started doing these API integrations without permission. And people don't care if you're a 5-man company because they're like, all right, son, you go on.
In fact, I think I even heard somebody thought maybe in discovery during the purchase, it was discovered that they didn't have like an actual license to use that stuff, and so Apple's like, you got to shut that down.
Well, and if you follow any like prominent app developers, you'll hear that they were forced to sign like license agreements.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, certain developers who had integration in the past all got these weird overnight emails saying, hey, you got to sign this really quick if you want us to keep working with you.
Right, and if you didn't, they just kicked out they just got rid of
it. And I think the whole thing is Google probably didn't do it fast enough, and then now that it's Apple, it's like, we're not going to bother.
Google's like, yeah, why don't you just go to hell?
You want that integration, get an Android, son.
Like, have you seen our new Nexus, or what is it now? The
Pixel.
Google Pixel.
I'm sure it's probably selling incredibly well. Anyways, that's cool. I might check it out. So that's workflow, and they just recently. How long ago did they update it? So they're actually still developing it. Yeah. May 8th. May 8th, not too long ago.
Probably.
Well, we have a few more things we weren't able to get to in the show notes.
Next week is all about DevOps automation, unless something big happens. Like, I don't know, Ryan Sipes decides to release him the fucking operating system.
What? Oh, my goodness. That would be crazy. Or
he's going to go for convergence. They're going for convergence.
Now, there you have it right there. You know what they should do is take that Unity 8, fork it. No, anyways.
Just call it Unity.
Mr. Dominic, where can people find you throughout the week?
Find me at Dumanuco, and I'm dropping Easter eggs for the launch on August 1st.
Ooh. Hashtag Dominic Leaks. Also find me at Chris LAS. Follow the network at Jupiter Signal. Give us your feedback. JupiterBroadcasting.com/contact. Also, in any episode of our show, you'll find RSS links where you can subscribe and then just get the show automatically. And check out last week's user error where Mike joined us to chat about life and other things. I think, that's a good tease. I'll leave it there. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And we'll see you right back here next Thursday.